Hello again, it's Adam Wilder. Let's continue with our KV-1. At this stage, the model is starting to look pretty nice, but there are still a few subtle steps that we can apply to enhance the chipping and rust effects even further. Next, we are going to add some Spackling using an olive green color mixed from a vibrant green filter, an old rust effect, and some field green pigments. Enamel thinner and a stencil brush will also be needed for this step. The rust effect will be needed to give the vibrant green more of an olive shade. I added it in small amounts at a time until obtaining a tone that was just a bit lighter than the overall tone of the KV-1. The pigments will help to make the effect just a bit more opaque and matte. Keep going back and forth with the different mediums until you are happy with the color. I dipped the stencil brush into the mix and removed much of the excess paint onto a piece of paper. It is best then to test the effect until you are happy with the distribution of the speckles. You should rotate the brush in order to make sure that the specks are flicking properly. I held the brush about 4 inches away from the model and started speckling bits of the olive green mix onto the turret. I found it easier to simply take off the gloves when performing this step. This subtle, important step serves a number of purposes. In this case, it is primarily to add very fine natural looking areas of semi-transparent chips to work with the lighter green ones brushed on in episode 6. It will also work with the oils to give a worn look to the markings. Speckling light tones like this over the base coat will also add what looks like further subtle texture to the cast turret and steel plates. If some of the specks are too large, you can remove them using a fine brush with enamel thinner. In this example, the Speckling is also working with the oils and filters added in episode 2, 3, and 4 to further blend the tones of the color modulation, making it look less obvious. Again, note the subtle, natural looking tones that this effect adds to the overall finish of the model. Most important, you can see how Speckling also helps to subtly unify the 3 different steps of the chipping effects applied in the previous 3 episodes. We can see how fast the enamel thinner evaporates. Now let's take it further using medium rust, brown rust, and ochre rust speckling effects from the nitro line. These effects, made specifically for this task, are more opaque and should be mixed and shaken prior to use. And yes, you're all by now aware of this music. Anyway, let's start like we did before by removing most of the paint, this time onto a paper towel. Now we are using the Speckling to create more very fine opaque rusty chips in the paint. The darker brown specks that I am applying now help to add different tones to the rust effects. As before, we can wipe any large specks away using enamel thinner. Remember, it is better to keep this effect very subtle on a vehicle still in operation like this model represents. Again, this effect is very faint and difficult to see on small and narrow parts such as this gun barrel. Seeing how much specks have been applied to the piece of paper will give you an idea of what's been added to the detail. Instead of removing all of the large specks, you can simply brush away parts of them, creating authentic looking rusty chips. All of the running gear and other details were done at once. Now we can see how the speckling added in this episode works to unify and further enhance the chipping effects while adding more tones to the overall finish. The light green tone speckled at the beginning of this video also helped to give a worn look to the markings, while adding a bit of fine texture to the turret and plates. Speckling also helps to blend the different tones used to make up the color modulation. We will use more examples of speckling throughout the weathering of this model. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. There are some interesting links in the description. Thank you for watching. See you next time.